So the Rebbe explained that in Ar'enu Niflois, there are two things that are taking place. First of all, the level of Niflois, the Nisim that were Lemailo min Hateva, which usually we cannot uh, we cannot bring them down. We don't get them because they are in a level which is only the fact we can see. So, like we said, you see Tzeischa Mason, you see the miracle, but how Tzeischa Mason works, you don't know. But la'asid lavoi, you'll not only see the Metzias, but you'll also see there'll be a revelation of the Mahus, how it takes place. Zekeli vanveu. So there will be that higher level which is distinct and above will come down to the person, that the person will be able to appreciate that miracle, not only know the miracle, but to see. That's going to be a gilui, something which is higher than gilui comes down to gilui. The second step is that becomes part of nature. That first the person gets it, and that becomes in teva, that in nature we can see in the world the higher level, which is uh, above, is also comes down. It'll be begilui. Also, what's usually behelem will become begilui in the world. Now the Rebbe says the way the niflois come into teva is two things. Also, it is from the perspective of the oir, the perspective of the nace, that the nace, which is usually beyond revelation, all of a sudden, la'asid lavoi, that can be revealed. And number two, that nature will not interfere, will not obscure that level. So one, that we're pushing down basically a higher level of miracles, that it should come down revealed. And two, from the world is not going to interfere, not going to obscure, not going to block the niflois. And based on this, the Rebbe will explain the two explanations we had before. From the Mittler Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe that we were learning now from Saramuna, we were learning that the Arena Niflois is talking about the miracles which are higher than nature. And we said that those miracles which are usually higher than Gilui, Arena will come down be Gilui. According to the Tzemach Tzedek we read and learned in the beginning of the Mamer, he says Arena Niflo is those miracles which are dressed in Teva, and now we see the nature, we're going to see the miracle that's in them, Laos and Lavai. Bottom line is, in both of these ideas, is that the nature will start to be on a higher level, that it will, first of all, not block, it can receive that higher level of miracles, and the nature will not block anymore that the hamshoche from the miracles that come in nature. These two levels from godliness, lemaila maila den ketz, will be revealed according to the Pirush of the Mittler Rebbe, that will come down, and also the level which is levade, the miracle which is dressed in teva, will also be revealed. No, let's look inside. The Rebbe said we can say the bislapshus haniflois beteva sheyil osilovei. When we're talking about the niflois that dress up in nature in the future. So we said it's not only that the oir which is lemailo, which is on a very high level, it's niflois even with regards to the niflois of the base Hamikdash. It's of of the Mitzias Mitzrayim and the Niflois. Those that highest level, the Niflois of the Niflois, as from the Medrash before that, even relative to the early Niflois, that which is higher than Gilu will come down by Gilu. But we talked about the second point that is going to come down, and Teva is not going to be mastered. And the Rebbe says there is 2 points over here in Teva not being mastered. To be slapshus and niflois beteva sheyeh. When the niflois dress up in nature in the future, there's shnei inyonim. So he says like this: the zeh shan niflois shalamayla mit teva yislapshu biteva. How is it that the niflois, which are higher than teva, will be dressed up in teva? Ki oz gam hahelem shalamayla megilui yumshach begilui, because la'asud lavoi, even Helem, which is higher than revelation, is going to come down revealed, and because it's revealed, it's going to come down also in nature. So nature is not going to conflict. So the change which is taking place is in the higher, in the niflois, that the niflois are brought down. So they're brought down begilu. So therefore, Tava can take them. It's the niflois, it's the gilui that changes. But that's one point. But v'zeh shehat Teva lo yastir ala niflois who. So that comes down, begilui. But why doesn't nature interfere, doesn't block the niflois? Because Teva will be elevated. Shagam hateva yiyeh kli laniflois shalamayla mateva. Nature will become a vehicle, a keli, a receptacle for the niflois shalamayla mateva. So therefore, A, it will come down milmayla to gilui, and B, the receptacle of Teva will become on a higher level, that he can get a higher level, and I can get the level of Niflois. And based on this, that we have the Teva being elevated to a higher level, we can understand now how the both of these pirushim of the Mittler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek, what happens by Arenu Niflois? According to the Mittler Rebbe, we're having the Giluyim, which is Lamailo, Milo din Niflois, which come from which Ein Sof Lamailo Maila din Ketz. They will be revealed Arenu, but they will come down in the time of Los Love. And the Tzemach Tzedek's pirush that those oil from that comes shoyshe in lamata mata in tachlis, and so lamata mata in tachlis. These pastures the gilu oil, which now is malubash in teva, but arenu niflois over there. We're not going to see the teva. We're going to see the nes. Zog the Rebbe now v'alpizeh yesh levayir hakesher. So based on this, we can explain the connection, the tie, the shnei pirushim barenu niflois, in the 2 interpretations that are niflois. Pirush admur ha'emtzoi, the Mittler Rebbe's interpretation. Shegam haniflois shalamaylo mehateva. He is talking about the niflois which is higher than teva. Yero os begilui. They will be seen openly. That's the hamshocha arenu. Now we don't see. Now we see only the metzias. We don't see the mahus. Unlike now, when we talk about the miracles, the wonders, but higher than Teva, we only know of their existence, but we don't understand. But le'asid lavoi, we'll know the mahus, we'll see the godliness. And as I ever said before, even more than that was at Yitzias Mitzrayim, which was at a one-time thing, and it was not as it'll be le'asid lavoi. Or Pirush Tzemach Tzedek. So that's the explanation of the middle Rebbe. That's explanation of Tzemach Tzedek. Shagam b'hanisim hamuluboshim b'teva. He says Aren Niflois is talking about the nisim which are dressed in teva, which is Niflois gedolos. Those are great wonder. Nimshochim b'chinas levadei. They come from the level of levadei because they come down into the level was ein balanes makir b'nisay. That means that it comes from a higher level, which the gilui is not a stira to it, so it comes down the gilui, that nes in teva. And the Tzemach Tzedek explains, "La'osid lava yiru yanira begilui haneshabam." We'll see the nes in that teva. Kinal siv gimel, I said before siv gimel. So, what is the connection? Because the idea, the content. What are these both interpretations? Basically, it is that the nature will be a vessel, a vehicle from higher than teva. That's why teva will not block the nisim ulumboshim boy. Which nisim? It depends. Tzemach Tzedek says the nisim from Levadi, the nisim of teva, and the Middle Rebbe says the nisim which is higher than teva. But the nekuda is one. Teva isn't going to be mastered. That's one point. Which was the second point that the Rebbe said before when he started off the ois, the two aspects. One, that it comes down, and second, that it doesn't block. We're talking about the point that it doesn't block. It doesn't block. It just depends what it doesn't block. According to the Mittler Rebbe, it doesn't block the nisim that are higher than teva, that we can see the mahus. And according to the Tzemach Tzedek, it doesn't block the nature that normally obscures the miracle, which is not going to be when le'asid lavoi. Let's look inside. According to the interpretation of the Tzemach Tzedek, Inyan arenu niflois. What is arenu niflois? What is the showing of the niflois? That the teva will not block those miracles which have a connection to teva. We're talking those miracles that come from rooted in lamata mata ad ein tachlis. Hainu hanisim hanimshochim mizeh she'orin sof lamata mata chulu. Those miracles that come from the fact that the ein sof is lamata mata ad ein tachlis, the gilui also lamata. So the teva will not inyan hagilui the sof. So that's the revelation, that it comes down, and nature isn't going to interfere with that. What's going to change? Because teva is going to be elevated. Teva, as it's now blocks on these miracles, they're still higher than nature. Hamleboshim beteva hu behagilui the oirin sof. The root of the nisim which come down in teva is the gilu so that's lamata mata the tachlis, in the part in which the ein sof is begilu, as we learned before. There is the chelik part of ein sof l'mayla, which the helem, the obscure, and that's the revelation of the ein sof. So that teva k'moshe gamris kishoyrish hanisim hamulboshim beteva hu be'agilu de'erin sof, which is the bechlolus hu shem havaya shelamayla ma'ateva. Generally speaking, that's the name havaya, which is higher than teva. It's only higher than teva, and therefore teva blocks on Havaya. Teva is a cover for Shem Havaya. So the nisim that come from Havaya, from the Giluyim, from Ein Sof, Lamata Mata, from level of Gilu, from Shem Havaya, are blocked by the Shem Elikim. That's now. Because that comes from Shem Havaya. V'sherish HaTeva Shem Elikim. The root of Teva comes from the name Elikim, because Elikim, Bigmatria Ha-Teva. Ha-Teva is the same value as Elikim, which means that the name Elikim. And the name Elikim blocks the Shem Havaya. Shemayim U'Mastir, Shem Havaya. The Shem Elikim blocks Shem Havaya. But in the future to come, Shem Elikim Gilui Keli La Gilui Havaya. But La'asid Lovoi, the name Elikim will be elevated, that it's not going to block Shem Havaya, but it'll become a vessel to the Gilui of Shem Havaya. So the Teva will reveal the miracle that's in it, the Havaya that's in it. That's according to the Tzemach Tzedek. But according to the Mittel Rebbe, Inyan Arenu Niflois, what is Arenu Niflois? Shahateva Hanimshach Meshem Elikim. The Teva that comes from the name Elikim is not only going to become a Keli to Shem Havaya, Yi Keli Gamla Niflois Shalamaylo Ma'ateva, also to the Niflois, which is higher than Teva, which Hanimshachim Mizeh She'en Sof L'mayla Maylo, which come from the level of Sof L'mayla Maylo, which is higher than Giluyim. Helam Shalamayla Megilui, L'mayla Havaya. That's the level of Helam which is higher than the Gilu Havaya. The Gilu of the Ein Sof, that's the Shem Havaya. But it's going to be a Keli not only to the Shem Havaya, but it's going to be a Gilu to the higher level of the Shem Havaya, to the level which is not B'chinas Gilu, which is a level of Helam, L'mayla Den Ketz. But the bottom line is, Teva isn't going to be obscuring anymore, not blocking anymore the oiris. So now, ches, so based upon what the Rebbe brought in the beginning from the Mamer, Shabagulo the Yitzias Mitzrayim Niftach Hatzinor Gam de Gula Hasida, that the whatever is going to take place in Yitzias Mitzrayim, the pipeline, the beginnings, is attributed to Yitzias Mitzrayim. It all started with Yitzias Mitzrayim. Gam de Gula Hasida. So also the Gula Hasida has its roots in Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yesh Loimar. So we can say Sheba Geula di Yitzias Mitzrayim. These ideas that we're talking now, Arena Niflois, what's going to take place in the time of Losid Lovoi, the power for that was taken also from Geulas Mitzrayim. Shaba Geula di Yitzias Mitzrayim, in the redemption of the Exodus of Egypt, Nimshach Gam Hanisinas Koyach Al Ha'inyan, that Enu Niflois Sheyeh Begula Hasida. Also this concept that I will show you the Niflois, as we've been explaining from the Mittler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek, that power for that idea, which is going to be Begula Hasida, that started in the Gula Yitzias Mitzrayim. So what is the idea? How did this start with Yitzias Mitzrayim? The fact that in the future to come, nature is going to be a vessel to higher than Teva, the Inyan Arenu Niflois, that I will show you this Niflois, that it'll be visible because the Keli, the Teva, will be able to contain it and it will be seen. While Yidei Habirurim, that is through the sorting out, we refine and we make the Kelim ready for them to be a Keli for these Gilui. Because this way, through the Birurim, the world is refined. Umis'alan is elevated, v'nase keli l'lamayla ma'ateva, and becomes a vehicle, becomes a vessel to higher the teva. That's accomplished now. And that's why this Kimei, all these duration of the time from the exodus of Egypt. Where did this work of sorting out began? With the exit of Egypt. The fact that we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. And what does it mean, Lefari b'Mitzrayim? Melech kosher, that's Lefari. B'Mitzrayim, Lefari was Melech kosher. B'Mitzrayim, it was a Medina kosher, it was a hard place. It was a situation even one slave cannot run away, cannot escape from Mitzrayim. And Ba'afal Pikein, Omdu bin Nisoyin, they still, notwithstanding the challenges, they withstood the test. Through this, they sorted out the sparks that were Mitzrayim. And but to the extent they sorted out the sparks by standing by and withstanding the nisyonis, to the extent that vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim, the pasuk says that they cleaned out, they took advantage, they took all of Egypt. Shasuha, and our sages tell us kimetzulo she'ein bodogim, like a net which has no fish in it. Ukimitsudo, and like a trap she'en bedog has corn, has nothing left in it. It was totally wiped out. And through that, and through that, the power for the service of Birurim was given for all the days that followed Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yimei Losharam. Yimei, it was given all the days. Also the days of the times of exile that follow the Mitzrayim. They went out of Mitzrayim, but later on, when we're in exile now, that also that we have the koyach, it's still Yimei, the bar avodas habirurim. V'yashloimar, the ma'atayim al zeh. One of the, from the reasons, amongst the reasons for the fact shemaskirim Yitzias Mitzrayim b'chol yom, that we mention the exodus of Egypt every day, who is because by mentioning it, we add b'nesinas koyach, in the power that is given shenimshach mitzias Mitzrayim, that extends from the exodus of Egypt, for the service of sorting out that takes place every day. The fact that on every day and day we sort out more sparks and more sparks, we become closer to the coming of Mashiach. Because through every spark that is sorted out, the world becomes more refined. To the extent that once we finish all this sorting out, all the berurim, then the world becomes a vessel for the revelation of godliness, which is higher than the world. Generally, this is the idea we're talking about. That the nature of world will become a vessel for higher than nature. That we'll be able to see the miracles. It will become, Teva will become, the niflois will be visible here because it's a keli. So why do we say that in the future I will show you the miracles? Kimei Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim, that's going to be, and we're saying it's like the days like when of Mitzrayim. Why are we saying like the days of Mitzrayim when it's a lot higher and stronger in La'osid Lavoi? Because they're talking about, because the koyach comes from there. Because the giving of the power for this idea to show to see this wonders that is going to be lost in love. He Mitzias Mitzrayim is from Mitzias Mitzrayim. And not only from one day, it comes from Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's the power to sort out and to make the world a place in which it could be mekabel that enoniflois. The niflois should be seen there. That teva should not be mastered. Kimei, Tzeischa, and this emphasis is specifically like the days of plural, like the days you went out. Kimei, Loshen Rabim, Kimei in the plural. Yitzias Mitzrayim Sorak Hanisinas Koyachalin Deren Flois. The one day when they actually went out, that was only the power given for this concept that they will see the Neflois, the Teva will become a Keli to Lamaila Teva that gave the power for that. But how does it actually mevarer? B'chdei sha'inya deraenu Neflois Yumshach. How does this come down in actuality? Through this service of birurim in the days that are in between Yitzias Mitzrayim and the future redemption. Those are the days, plural. The actual days what we do the birurim. Canal Sif Aleph Mamer. I said those are the days from the days. Yemei Lo Sharab. It's a plural. That's how we actually bring the berurim and we're mezacher the Olam Hazeh. So okay, so it's Yemei. So how come it says only in the pasuk Matiskeres Yom Tzeischa? The Rebbe asked before. Over there it says only one day, and we don't say Yemei Tzeischa over there. Yesh Loimar. So we can say the machiluk in bein hakosuf Kimei Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim Aren Neflois, and the pasuk va'kosuf l'mantiskeres Yom Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim kol yimei chageyacho shemimenu lemeidim shemaskirim Yitzias Mitzrayim gam b'yimei Mashiach. We learn from this pasuk kol yimei chageyacho, kol, that all the days, not only in Olam Hazeh but also yimei Mashiach, lahavi l'yimei Mashiach is kol yimei chageyacho. So what's the difference between the psukim? Is the Kosuf Kimei Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim Arenu Niflois. The pasuk in Micha, in which we started the Mamer, it says Kimei Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim Arenu Niflois, is talking about Medaber V'Geula Hasidah. It's talking about in the future redemption, and we're saying Kimei Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim Arenu Niflois. V'Omer Kimei Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim, and that's why he says, like the days, the plural that you went out of Mitzrayim. Sha'anesinas koyach al arenu niflois shebigeula hasidah, that the power that is given for arenu niflois, for nature to get l'maylam nature that will take place in the future redemption, humi mei Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim, is from the plural, from all the days you left Mitzrayim. But that's the pasuk Kimei Tzeischa. But the pasuk va'kosuf l'man tisker nemar the parshas shomer es chodesh Aviv. That is written in the portion of shomer es chodesh Aviv. V'osisa Pesach. We're talking about keep the month, the spring, the Pesach. You make Pesach in the spring. We're talking about Pesach. The Pesach in Yitzias Mitzrayim. Over there we're talking about going out of Yitzias Mitzrayim. So over there, and he says, so that you remember the day, one day, that you went out of Mitzrayim, all the days of your life, to include and to bring about that also Yemei Mashiach to mention. To say that the intention of the redemption of Yitzias Mitzrayim, he Shati and Niskeres v'nimsheches gam b'yomim shel Achron, that it should be remembered and extend also in the days that follow. Yitzias Mitzrayim. Should always remember b'yimei Mashiach, in the days of Mashiach. So over there, we're saying, remember always that day, that one day, to extend it and bring about in these days. We're not talking about how all these days impact Mashiach's time. That's the pasuk Kimei Tzeischa. Over here, we're talking about what to do with this day of Mitzrayim. So we're telling you, take that day and do it and bring it down into every day. And in the Yemei Mashiach, to bring about the Arenu Niflois. The Rebbe asked before, Mamer. The Rebbe asked in the beginning, so the Mamer writes, Shalahavin ha'inyan dilemei loshon rabim. In order to understand what is the loshon rabim, yesh lahagdim ha'inyan d'schiras yitzias Mitzrayim loshon lovei. He says to introduce this by explaining the idea of remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim in the future. The Rebbe asked, how does this explain it? So the Rebbe says now like this: Ki zeh shemaskirim Yitzias Mitzrayim b'meisa Mashiachu. Why do we mention Yitzias Mitzrayim b'meisa Mashiach? Is lifi shezehu inyono shel Yitzias Mitzrayim, because this is the idea of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Because this is why Yitzias Mitzrayim. V'al pizeh, meaning in Yemei Mashiach, we mention Yitzias Mitzrayim because we are. This is the Yitzias Mitzrayim that we're becoming, making our end of flows. We're elevating, because this is Yitzias Mitzrayim did this, and we take the koyach from there. Apizeh Yuvan Yoser, Mashikola Yomim Mizman Yitzias Mitzrayim Ad Gula Hasida. That all these days until the Gula Hasida, from the time Kimei Shal Yodom Nimshach HaKoyach Shebitzias Mitzrayim, through all these days which give the power, through them comes the power of Yitzias Mitzrayim Al Gula Hasida HaKoyach Al Apoyel, which into actuality, because it just started. The first day was Yitzias Mitzrayim, the power, but then everything that goes on. Now we understand why their days of going out, because they fulfill and bring into practical what it started with, that Yom Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim. The Yom Yitzias Mitzrayim is to go out and do the level of bitter, to make it into a keilah, which is why we mention it in Yemei Mashiach. But how do we do the poil? It's Yemei Tzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim. So up here now. So based on the above, Yono Shel Yitzias Mitzrayim Hulahove Agula Hasida. That the concept, the idea of Yitzias Mitzrayim is to bring the future redemption. Move on. It's understood. Shal Yidei Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim B'chol Yom. That when we mentioned, that's the mentioned is the Yitzias Mitzrayim brings the Geula Birurim. So when we mention Yitzias Mitzrayim every day, especially when we relate the story of the Exodus of Egypt, the night of Pesach, in the time of this Matzah Mori, was more than Matzah Mori, it was also Pesach Matzah Mori. We also had Pesach in addition to the Matzah Mori. And the Rebbe says in the note that that's explained separately. This point over here, the Rebbe brings in the Sichas in another reference, because what's the special connection to the Mamer over here? But the Rebbe explains that when we contemplate and we remember the Yitzias Mitzrayim, we hasten even more the fulfillment of the promise Kimei to see the great miracles through the future redemption by let him come redeem us with the true and complete redemption very speedily in our days. So the Rebbe explains over here the difference why it says Yimei and it says Yom. Because Yimei is talking about the times of Mashiach, keep on doing the Yimei, all the days lead to that nature being elevated. Yom is talking about the importance, why should we mention all the time to be mamshechit? And that's the Rebbe says now actually helps us. We mention it because that gives us the koyach through mentioning it to do the Avodah Saburim, to merit Aren and the floors. But the Rebbe explains, now we understand why the Rebbe brings down, explain Mantisker is Yem Tzeischa, Meretz Mitzrayim, to understand Kimei Tzeischa, because Yem Tzeischa, why are we mentioning Yitzias Mitzrayim Laos and Love? Because this is the whole point of making the Avodah Sabirunim and going out and bringing out on the Mizachich, the world, to lead to the coming of Mashiach. It's difficult, it's a lot, it's good for a first time, is to learn it over again, but at least we got some of the Mamer, hopefully some benefit, and when we learn it again and again, we'll be able to understand it at least a little better and better, and that's the seder of learning, to not be satisfied with one review, but to keep on going more and more.